Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. So in this video I'd like to give you guys an update on this willow that I've started as a bonsai. So in the previous update I had recently fused the 4 stems into one to make an unusual looking bonsai. Since then I've allowed it to grow over the summer, and as you can see it's grown fairly large and we've now got quite a large sizable plant, so it has done quite well. Now what I want to do now is I want to cut it down and start regrowing it from a single point. The reason I want to do this is, as you can see, it kind of comes up and along to the side. I don't want that angle like that. I want it to come out from the middle straight up, and then we can start pruning and shaping the branches how we like them. So what I'm going to do is just cut that off now, and then we'll allow it to regrow. We'll then just choose the best looking shoot and train it into a nicer looking tree. So since the last update, as you can see, it's thickened up quite a lot, particularly around the join. So you can see there was actually 2 stems just here that were kind of similar in size, but as you can see now it just looks like one large stem instead of 2 and 1 that was cut off recently. And the lower stems as well, they've thickened. They haven't thickened evenly, so some of them are a little thicker than others. You can see low down there, some of them are a bit thicker than the other ones. That will be a slight issue over time. We may have to do a little bit of tweaking with that to try and even them up, maybe a bit of root pruning or something, but otherwise they're not looking too bad. They've all survived and they all have all thickened up slightly. And the union itself in the middle there, where they all fuse together, is starting to join up quite nice, and it is starting to look like one plant. So ideally I would have liked them all to join in the same place, but the way that they were, it wasn't possible, so I've had to join them in separate locations. So it means that even when I do prune this on the left hand side, it will stick out a bit to the side, but maybe I'll just have to make that into some kind of feature. So I should have pruned this probably a month ago. It's now almost the middle of March. The tree isn't in leaf yet, but it is budding up and it will be in leaf soon. I really should have done this when it was fully dormant and not when it was coming into leaf, because the issue with it coming into leaf is there's going to be a lot of sap flow. A lot of sap will be going up from the roots, and it could bleed quite a lot when I trim it. So it's not ideal, but it should be okay. It's not in full leaf yet, so it won't be too much of a hit for the plant, and it's quite a vigorous plant, this willow. It'll resprout no problem. So I'll just go ahead now, I'll just prune it off. So that's it now pruned. I've done it as low as I can, but still keeping some of that grafted section from the left hand stem. Now I did actually cut some of the graft off. It had grafted up probably about 3 or 4 centimeters, so now reduced it down to about 2 or 3 centimeters, but it's still a nice connection. And I'll give you a close-up as well of how the cut stem looks, and you can actually see the rings on it where the 2 sections of stem join, but it doesn't actually look too much like a graft. It's so well fused now, so it's taken really nicely. So that's all I'm doing for the willow for now. I'm just gonna give it a feed, let it sprout and grow, and we'll see what it looks like in a few weeks time. There should be loads of new sprouts coming on it, and then we'll just have to reduce that down to 1 and allow it to grow into the new main stem of the plant. So it's exactly 1 month later, and as you can see there's a lot of new shoots coming up. So because they cut off the main shoot at the top, what's now happened is the hormones going through the plant to suppress this, the remaining shoots that are dormant lower down has been removed, because the hormones are normally produced by the new growing shoots. So because of that, all these dormant shoots are resprouted, and as you can see down the bottom there, there's a particularly strong resprouting of shoots. So what I need to do is I need to remove all these lower ones, otherwise this is just going to be really messy. And then what I'm going to do is just leave 1 at the top. So I'll go ahead and remove these lower ones now, and I don't need to use secateurs, they're very soft shoots, I'll just break them off by hand. So until we get a new main shoot established at the top, these will probably resprout a couple more times this summer, so I'll just need to break them off as they appear. But up the top, we need to choose which bud would be our final one. Now these 2 lower ones have to go. So the reason I need to get rid of these ones is because these are a bit lower than the final graft. So the final graft is on the right hand side there, and that's a little bit higher than them, so I need to get rid of those 2 lower ones. And now we're left with this nice shoot at the back. I'll turn it around to give you a better view. The problem with this shoot, however, is it's a little bit too low down, so the graft up from the left hand side is probably going to bypass that. So what's going to happen is that we're going to have 3 grafted shoots, and that one on the left is going to die off because it doesn't have any flow to the new shoot coming out the top. So what I need to do is take this one off as well, and then we're just left with 1 very small shoot on the other side. So here's the close-up of the top. As you can see, the last shoot that we've got is right at the top here. It's very, very tiny, but this is right towards the top, so that will make sure that all 4 root systems will feed equally into this one shoot, and this will be trained as the final one. Now it is further right than I'd like. I'd like to ideally have it more of a central point here on the left. That will bypass this root system on the right here, so this will have to be the best place I can get. I don't see any new shoots coming out of this side, which would probably be a little bit more ideal, but I think they can still work with it and make an interesting bonsai. So what I'll do now is I'll just let this grow, and what I'll be doing is any new shoots anywhere else on the plant I'll be taking off. Now if I do get a new one that's slightly better position, I will leave that one to grow and I'll remove this small one that we're keeping at the moment, but in all likelihood that's probably not going to happen, so we'll just see how it does. And I'll just keep removing any of the other shoots that come off and let that one grow, and I'll see you in a few weeks time. Now this time of year things grow really quickly, so I'd expect even in just 1 month to be a decent amount of growth. So it's just over a month since you last saw me in the update, and as you can see that one little shoot has grown a huge amount. In fact it's grown well over a foot, probably 40 or 50 centimeters, and it's now really shooting up for the sky. So what I think I'll do is I need to start thinking about what kind of shape I want this to grow. I don't want it to grow in just one large column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off low down and encourage some more side branching, and then I'll just keep nipping out the shoots every now and again and encourage it to branch more naturally. So eventually I might put a weeping willow on the top of this, but for now I'm just going to go ahead with the hybrid willow. Now further down we did have quite a bit of new shoots coming out from the base. I've been constantly pruning these off and I'll continue to do that. The shoots have slowed down a bit, but they're going to speed up again once I do this prune now. But otherwise it's all looking good, and the graft as well looks like it's taken very nicely. So there hasn't been much thickening up yet, but it will continue to thicken up over the summer, and I'm quite happy with how it looks. So I'm just going to go ahead now and I'm going to prune this down almost to where it was when it first started to sprout. So what I think I'll do is I'll prune the main shoot off at this point here, and I'm going to let this become the new main shoot. But what I'm also going to do is remove this one as well, and I'm going to pinch the top off this new shoot. What that will do is it will encourage lots of side shoots. That will allow me to grow in a nice new framework of branches that will be nicely branched, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to train this in with wires at a later date and make a slightly more interesting feature. So that's the willow now pruned. What I will find is I'll get a lot more of those lower shoots coming up from the base. I'll just keep removing them. I'll allow this to grow and I'll see how the new shoots are coming out, and I may need to do some wiring or further work later in the summer. But that's all for this update. I'll see you guys in a few months time and we'll see how the willow is doing.